Yes, welcome in. Badgers have lost for a sixth straight time. But as opposed to the last few games, I think we've got some positive things to talk about, don't we, Jesse?
We certainly do. I give full credit to Wisconsin because there are a lot more positives than I anticipated there would be for that road game down at Oregon.
Absolutely. They lose 21-7 in what looked like a downpour most of the game. We're going to get into all of it. We'll get to what went right, what went wrong. We'll get to your listener questions as well. Before we get going, as always, if you're listening to this, we do have a YouTube channel that you can check out. Just search for The Camp and subscribe and watch up there. We would really appreciate it. It helps us grow the show. Also, all of Jesse's work at badgerconnect.com is available as well. What you got going on right now?
Well, it's a bye week for football, so some non-football stories, including one up today on Wisconsin basketball's approach to international recruiting, which I think is pretty interesting what they've been able to do on the international market. And if you want to read my thoughts on the Oregon game, you can, but plenty more on the way at Badger Connect.
So check that out. All right, let's jump into this. What went right for the Badgers on Saturday night out in Eugene?
Well, this will obviously be a lot longer segment than our discussion after the Iowa and Ohio State games. I have to start defensively. Full credit for that performance. And I know it was a downpour and the weather made it difficult to take some deep shots for an Oregon team that liked to do that. But Oregon still came into that game number 2 in the country in scoring offense, and Wisconsin's defense just did not make it easy. They did a great job of setting the tone early, right away in a season that hasn't gone your way pretty much every way imaginable. Oregon has an onside kick and recovers, and you're thinking, oh man, here we go again. And what happens? Wisconsin's defense forces a turnover on downs. Mason Reiger beats his dude on 4th down for a sack. On the second series, Sebastian Cheeks gets a sack on 3rd down to force a punt. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Oregon had a 99-yard touchdown drive, but you certainly can't expect to hold Oregon scoreless for an entire game. I thought they did everything they possibly could. They ended up with 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. And if we're going to talk about what went right, you've got to start with the freshman linebackers, Cooper Catalano and Mason Posa. If you're looking for a silver lining, those two dudes are certainly in that conversation. Catalano led the team in tackles last week with 8. Now Posa in his first start gets 13 tackles, and that dude was everywhere. You could tell right from the jump. He had 4 tackles on the first 2 series. He had the arm to the helmet, which ended up knocking out Dante Moore for the rest of the game. See, Moore's nose was all bloody. Obviously, you have to make sure you keep players around once they start to thrive. But I just could not be more impressed with those 2 guys. And really, the defense showing up and showing out on a day where you knew the offense was going to struggle, because the offense has struggled basically every game other than Middle Tennessee in the second half. They did all they could, and I just give them all the credit in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say the same thing about the linebackers. They were very noticeable. It felt like it gave them a little energy. The entire defense, a lot of energy, just the way that both those guys were flying around. And yeah, again, the weather probably helped in limiting some of the stuff that Oregon wanted to do, because Wisconsin's secondary has been taken advantage of at times this year. But you just have to give credit to Wisconsin's defense for keeping them in that game. And that's exactly what they did. They kept them in the game, kept it within striking distance for most of the time. And that certainly was not the expectation going in. What else stood out to you for what went right?
Well, I also want to give a shout out to the defensive line. I thought they did a really solid job. Javier Suggs getting in there on a play. Ben Barton with that late sack. I think certainly run defense, they've been really good. And it's interesting because Oregon ended up with 200 plus yards rushing. I think Wisconsin's defense probably wore down over time, and Oregon clearly found something. They've got some really talented running backs. Before halftime, that long drive really hurt. But I think they've made some strides defensively, and to me, it's a question of, can you keep this up? Because it's been inconsistent. The Iowa game, not great. But if you can do what you did against Michigan and Oregon, if you can continue that in November, people are just looking for Wisconsin to be competitive at this point, because the bar is low, obviously. But so defensively, I want to at least acknowledge the D-line as well. Gideon Atuka, if we want to flip to offense, there's not a lot that the offense has done very well, but he gets his shot, and he looked like the guy that we saw when he showed flashes in camp. he has more burst than you would expect for someone who's like 220 plus pounds in a 5'9" frame. He's got a ton of power. I love that 18-yard run that he had. He ended up with 20 plus carries, I think, 80 plus yards rushing. And Wisconsin was desperate at running back. You didn't have Dylan Jones and Darian Dupree to start the game. Cade Yakimelli was the starter, so Atuka knew he was going to have a role as the backup. And then Cade went out and got hurt, and he was out for the rest of the game. So you had Atuka, and you had to throw Grover Bortolotti in there for a play where they tried to pass him the ball. So Atuka, yes, he put one ball on the ground, wet conditions, not ideal, and he got a penalty. But for a redshirt freshman who was overlooked in that 2024 recruiting class because they signed Jones and Dupree, 2 4-star prospects, I think he offered a glimpse, just like Mason Poston and Cooper Catalano did, of what the future could be, because he's showed that he's deserving of having a role, whatever that may be. It gives him a lot of power back there.
Certainly have to credit the offensive line too.
Yes, absolutely. I think the O-line deserves credit for opening those holes. And it hasn't been easy. And you saw the injury report. I think that's another thing here too. Like, the TV broadcast made a lot of this. I feel like they made too much of it. Like, oh, the team hasn't quit. I mean, okay, credit, I guess. But you looked at that injury report and you thought, my God, what is Wisconsin going to have left in the tank? Jake Renfro was out. Your starting center. Kerry Kadonko was out. Your starting right guard. So they went back to Davis Heinzen at center, who, by the way, had 2 fumble recoveries. You don't often see an offensive lineman with that. So he showed some alertness. You had to start Colin Cubberly again at right guard. And for a unit that's been really banged up and has had a lot of rotations, I thought they did a pretty decent job of helping Gideon Atuka.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think maybe we talked about this during spring ball. The first year that Gideon was here so that would be 2024 spring, but kind of remind me a little bit of Monte Ball in the way that he ran. And I think people brought that up on Saturday night as well. Do you see any of that?
Well,
just in the body type and running style.
Yeah, I think so. Monte was a great college player and had incredible players around him. But yeah, there was some power and maybe some surprising burst from him. He also, what do you have, 83 touchdowns or some crazy number like that. But yeah, I can see it.
I mean, Monte didn't play a ton in 2009, which was his freshman year, and the only way he got into the 2010 was James White getting hurt and John Clay being dinged up too. So you just never know when guys get their opportunities, what they can do with them. And we saw that with Gideon on Saturday night, him potentially being able to show that he deserves more of a role. Anything else on the offensive side?
It's hard for me to find a lot. I mean, look, they scored a touchdown.
Eugene Hilton Jr., right?
Yes.
Eugene Hilton Jr.
Yes.
Tracking that ball.
Hunter Simmons got drilled. He chucked that ball up down the field. It was drastically underthrown, which played to Hilton's advantage because otherwise Oregon was in pretty decent position. And Hilton made a play. It's everything we saw in practices. I felt like, and we talked about this in August, you threw the ball in his general direction and it felt like he was going to come up with it. So again, a young guy making a play, not that Hilton got as many opportunities as the linebackers or Atuka, but that certainly stood out. And it helped lead to Wisconsin's first touchdown drive in 14 quarters since the first series against Michigan. I don't know how much it's worth celebrating, but at least they're off the schneid there, and they made him work for it because what happened when they got to the goal line? Fumbled the ball. Hunter Simmons landed on it. Thankfully for Wisconsin, he was able to throw that 2-yard touchdown pass to Lance Mason. Plenty of things in what went wrong when we want to talk about the offense, but it's been so long since they've had a touchdown drive or scored at all that you have to acknowledge that in the what went right category.
174 minutes and 46 seconds of game action between scores for them.
Unbelievable. So they avoided being shut out in 3 straight games for the first time since 1968.
Yes. I mean, I started when it was in the fourth quarter, I started looking for the fourth time, if it's ever happened 4 games in a row. Thankfully, I didn't have to get too far because they scored pretty quickly after that. But yeah, it's off the schneid, and it's something we don't have to talk about anymore. And yet they I will wait for this. Anything else with what went right? I thought Alex Bertrand's put the ball down right on the goal line that one time.
That's what I was going to say. I thought the punt coverage, Vinny Anthony got down there and made a good play, and so they were able to pin Oregon back. Unfortunately for Wisconsin, Oregon ended up going 99 yards on a touchdown drive. But special teams wasn't something that it felt like hurt Wisconsin in that matchup.
All right. Ready to switch?
Let's do it.
All right. So what went wrong?
I mean, it's the offense, and it's more of the same. I don't really see a ton defensively. Again, Oregon ended up with 200 plus rushing yards, but hard for me to find a lot of fault when the defense held Oregon like 23 points below its season scoring average. This comes back to the offense is inept. And you can say that Oregon's offense was slowed down by the weather. I don't think the weather really would have mattered. Now you could say also that when it stopped raining, Wisconsin finally scored a touchdown, but they can't move the ball. Their quarterback play is awful. And I know that's probably the number one question we receive when you ask for questions about what Wisconsin does here. Hunter Simmons is doing everything he can in the spot that he's in, but it's not enough. He was what, 1 for 13 to open that game? He had 12 yards passing going into the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And they did get the touchdown drive, and that big play to Hilton certainly helped the stats, but he has now thrown for under 100 yards in 3 consecutive starts. This season, he has 2 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions. And I know that there are a lot of things that aren't going well for Wisconsin, but if you don't have quality quarterback play, you don't have a lot. And we have to acknowledge Billy Edwards Jr. missed his 6th game, and they obviously don't have the caliber of quarterback play behind him to be competitive. It says something to me that no matter how bad Hunter Simmons has been, we've not seen a lot of Danny O'Neal. And that probably inevitably leads to questions about Carter Smith. But since we're just focusing on this game, quarterback play has just been, I mean, I can't remember quarterback play that's been this poor for this prolonged since I've covered the team. And I thought about it. Obviously, Tanner McAvoy had some issues, but he presented some challenges as a runner. Kurt Phillips didn't put up huge numbers, but he also had a decent running game and had torn his ACL 3 times. I think Wisconsin is clearly in a really challenging spot, and they need better.
Yeah, I think you're looking at 2008, 2012, 2014, and obviously the last 2 years as well. But this is 3 straight years of quarterback play. You know, obviously Tanner was good when he was solid when he actually got to play. But you can't win games with Hunter Simmons right now. And what is, I think, probably so frustrating for fans is, you know, Danny O'Neal wasn't great by any stretch. He had 5 touchdowns, but also 5 interceptions. But he completed well over 60% of his passes. Hunter Simmons is completing 50% of his passes. Now, again, the people that Danny O'Neal started against versus the people that Hunter Simmons started against. I mean, Hunter Simmons has started now against Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, and Oregon. So the competition is obviously a significant step up. But Luke Fickell said it after the game against Ohio State. I think he said it again on Saturday night when he was asked about Danny O'Neal. And he was like, well, we were thinking about it, but then we decided not to do it. And then it's like there's something going on there. Like, I don't know exactly what it is, but it feels like something's going on there that he doesn't get a shot, because you can't start 1 for 13 and think that guy deserves to continue to play. And I know it was tough conditions. And I will say the one time it rained at fall camp, it did not look good for Danny O'Neal. The ball was slipping all over the place. So maybe that played a factor in his decision not to put him in there. But it feels weird that they continue to go with Hunter Simmons at that spot, considering his play.
Let me ask you this, because I don't know the answer. How many games has Danny O'Neal played in?
5.
Okay. Well, then it's a moot point. I thought, well, are they in such a terrible spot that they're planning for the future and seeing if you can get a redshirt year out of it? Because he obviously played as a true freshman, but I guess if he's played in 5, that's not happening.
And it was weird. Like Luke Fickell said that Danny's got to stay with us. He's got to stay with us. And I don't know what that means. Like, is he saying that he's checked out because he's not playing? I don't get that. But yeah, he played against Miami, Ohio, right? Because that's the game when Billy Edwards went down. He started against Middle Tennessee State, and he started against Alabama, and he started against Maryland. So that's 4, right? And then for some reason, they played him for a few games or a few snaps against Michigan. And he also got a few snaps against Iowa as well. So, yeah, I mean, I guess he's played in 6, but the red shirt was out the window as soon as he stepped on the field at Michigan. So that's not a possibility. The other possibility with Billy Edwards is, are they trying to push this off and maybe get a medical red shirt there for him? I don't know. We'll see. But I can't imagine going the entire month of November playing Hunter Simmons. And we'll get to this because a lot of the questions were about Carter Smith, and he actually did travel. But now that, and I know a lot of people were like, who cares about the red shirt? Red shirt doesn't matter because they're going to get 5 years. The 5-year thing is going to come sooner rather than later. But I wouldn't have put him in that situation. I wouldn't have put him in at Oregon. I think that's asking a little bit much for a guy to step in there. But you got this bye week now where you have some time to potentially get a guy ready and potentially play him against Washington and Indiana and Illinois and Minnesota and see what he's got.
Yep. I mean, we'll get to the Carter Smith situation. The quarterback situation in general is just, it's dire right now. And you don't have a capable quarterback. It sets you back for an offense that already was struggling. And we talk about the touchdown drive that they had, but this offense continues to descend into, I don't know how to put it, levels that we just have not seen. And you asked the question a handful of times whether this offense would average fewer than 10 points per game. I'm still taking the over, but now they're down to 12.5 points a game, which is the worst that Wisconsin's had since, I believe, Barry Alvarez's first season in 1990. And their total offense is the worst since his second season in 1991. And that's really the level that we're looking at here as Wisconsin's team, and certainly the offense. That's how long it's been. No team is threatened by Wisconsin offensively, which is why you can open a game with an onside kick and be okay with not recovering because you don't think that Wisconsin's offense is a threat. And that obviously changes the complexion of what the other side feels they're able to do.
Absolutely. I just don't know what the answer is either, though. Like, I don't think Danny O'Neill's the answer, but he should be playing over Hunter Simmons. He should be given opportunities when Hunter Simmons starts the way he did against Oregon and the way that he played the previous 3 games. There's very little on tape that suggests that Hunter Simmons can play but again, Luke Fickell said the reason they play Hunter Simmons is because they thought they needed a passing element of him. He gives them that, right? Like, but does he? I mean, again, he's got the big arm, I guess.
He's completing like 43% of his passes or something.
He's at 50.
Oh, is he?
But yeah, he's right at 50.
Okay.
Yeah, 46. 46 for 92, which I guess is 50%. And he's averaging 5.1 yards per, I think it's per attempt, which is 2 yards lower than what Danny O'Neill has averaged in his starts. Again, the competition is significantly different, and I think we do have to at least now acknowledge that. But I mean, they had 12 yards passing into the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Try something else. Try something else, please. We've seen. I mean, and again, as Wisconsin, as people that have covered Wisconsin football, and then people that are listening to this are Wisconsin fans, we've seen a lot of bad quarterback play, but this is right up with the worst I've ever seen. And, some of it is guys maybe not making every play that they can, but it's just not good. And you can't win games like this. You're just putting yourself behind the 8 ball, and there's no running threat to it either. So add that all up, and you get what you've seen with Hunter Simmons in this offense. So I don't know what the answer to it is this year, other than try somebody else. You are in it doesn't matter mode. I shouldn't say that. You're in nothing to lose mode, or at least that's what you tell us. Start coaching like it. Start putting. I mean, we kind of saw it on defense with these young guys playing. Why not just go all in on the young guy aspect of this? And if the older guys complain, but I know there's older guys complaining other places on this team, but at quarterback, there should be no complaining at all. You haven't played well enough to deserve to continue to play. But again, maybe Carter Smith's not ready, and maybe it'll look horrible. But he definitely gives them an opportunity to run and present that. And we've seen running quarterbacks be able to have success with Wisconsin, and maybe they're not the greatest throwers, but this is horrible. Horrible.
I'll hold off on my Carter Smith thoughts until we get to probably listener questions, just because I imagine it was 60% of the questions and doesn't specifically focus on the Oregon game. But obviously, that's going to be a topic that is ongoing here throughout the bye weekend.
All right. Anything else that you wanted to hit on that of what went wrong?
I don't think so. I mean, realistically, Wisconsin, maybe not offensively, but as a team, exceeded our expectations. I said Oregon would win 42-3. You said Oregon would win 48-0. In Vegas said Oregon had I think by kickoff it was 31.5 points. It opened at 33.5. So the fact Wisconsin went down there and it was 7-0 at the half and they lost 21-7. Really, that's best case scenario. And again, that's low bar, but that's where Wisconsin is right now. Can you put together performances like you did against Oregon and like you did against Michigan, knowing your offense is not very good and you've got to rely on the defense? So that's not what went wrong. But I think that was really best case for Wisconsin, what happened on Saturday. And if you're looking for positives, at least this group is still fighting. Because there are some teams that completely give up. And I think I was starting to wonder myself after what we saw the last couple of weeks. And they played with pride, and they did a lot of the things we saw against Michigan, which is, I think, all people are really looking to see right now.
Yeah, I preferred their effort against Oregon more so than the Michigan game. I mean, Michigan put up, close to 500 yards of offense?
445 yards of total offense, yeah.
Yeah, so but either way, they were so much more competitive on Saturday than they had been the previous two Saturdays. And I think in large part is because until late, they didn't put the defense in horrible spots for the most part, right? The offense didn't turn the ball over outside of it was that late interception, right?
Yeah.
That he had. They didn't have like the back-breaking throw or interception that that we've seen. The other thing I wanted to mention though, and what went wrong, and maybe this is a season-long thing than a game against Oregon, but the fact that it was that wet and that rainy, and they still could not force a fumble and that they recover it. They're one of 5 teams in college football right now that has not recovered a fumble. They have one of the worst turnover margins in the country, as you would expect. But you look at the other teams that have yet to recover a fumble. It reads like teams that you would absolutely believe: Florida State, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Oregon State. So 4 of what you could perhaps fairly call the worst Power 4 teams. I know Oregon State's not in the Power 4 anymore, but it's bad. And they haven't been able to force turnovers, which has been such a huge problem, which has been such, if you can't get those short fields that you're giving the other team, because Wisconsin has turned the ball over, it's really tough. They have never recovered fewer than 3 fumbles in a season.
It's wild, and you wonder how much of that is just bad luck and how much it's a combination. It's a cocktail, I think. Go ahead.
They've forced 1.
Yeah. You have to have playmakers and people that can put themselves in position to have game-changing plays. And this defense as a whole has, 4 takeaways? And those all happened. Well, Rico got one a few weeks ago. But they had 3 through 2 games. Which was the game where Rico got the pick?
I thought it was Ohio State.
Yeah.
No, it was Iowa. Because I remember saying everything else is working so well. That's why the quarterback just threw it up, because he probably was going to end up in his hands. They should have had one on Saturday night. Emilio Agard.
Yes. Oh my God! You want to talk about an encapsulation of what this season is? You've got this pass. We're on the same page, wavelength.
Yes.
Emilio Agard has the ball. It slips through his hands. Oregon ends up catching the ball on the sideline while dude is falling down and there's a defender on him. That is Wisconsin football right now. So yes, sometimes it's bad luck. It's lack of playmakers. And what were the three things Mike Tressel talked about before the season that they absolutely had to do? Limit explosives, get more TFLs, and get takeaways. I think they've done a better job on some of these other things, but certainly the lack of takeaways is doing them no favors.
Yeah, I mean, catch the ball. I mean, you've got the gloves on. It's not like you're. I mean, it's crazy. That was crazy. But you're right. I thought the exact same thing, and I tweeted out a gif of you just have to laugh at this point because otherwise, I don't know what the emotion you can have at that point is if you're a fan. Like, it's right to him. The backup quarterback threw it right to him, and didn't get it. And again, I don't know. I don't think it's not going to matter, right? But you never know. Those are plays that you make, and maybe it starts rolling downhill. But the fumbles thing is just crazy. And I think the forced fumble thing is they gave Austin Brown one. I thought for sure they had a couple in the first. Either the Miami of Ohio game or the Middle Tennessee State game. I thought they had a couple forced, but maybe just they only counted one. Austin Brown has the lone one, but that's crazy to me. And when I went back and looked to see like the fewest fumbles they recovered ever, it's 3. And at this point, if they couldn't get one in those conditions, I don't know if they will. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anything else in the what went wrong category for you?
No, I think we've got probably a lot of questions from listeners.
Yeah, can you stretch for me so I can find them?
Yeah.
Or I can talk about why we didn't have the show on Sunday. But I prefer for you to talk because as you can hear, I don't have much left.
I think it's less about what went wrong and just starting to evaluate big picture because we're in a situation where every game is really a referendum on where things stand for Luke Fickell and this Wisconsin football program. But now we hit the bye. They got out of the hellacious October, obviously going 0-4. And I'm wondering how many wins are left for Wisconsin. The next 4 opponents or the last 4 opponents all have winning records. They all have at least 5 wins. And they're not necessarily great teams, but I don't know that it's going to be particularly easy in November either. But if you're looking for the silver lining, at least they fought against Oregon. If they can somehow build on that, which has been problematic, it's really been indicative of the Luke Fickell era and certainly the last 2 years. They will have a performance like this, and then they will come out and get absolutely smoked. But if you can build on this off the bye week and get some of these dudes healthy, maybe you can win a game in November. Hard for me to feel like there's more than one win out there, but as you get closer to the offseason, you need something to build on to create a level of optimism. And so that's kind of where my thought is now as we hit the bye week.
So they scored 17 points in the month of October. I feel like
there's not good.
It's not great. Last night, Green Bay scored 28 points in the second half. The entire month of October, Wisconsin scored 17. Woof. Not great. But let's get into some of these listener questions. Marcus says, overreaction or no? You can't sit getting Atuka, Mason Posa, Cooper Catalano, or Eugene Hilton the rest of the year. And Carter Smith will be QB1 versus Washington. You can take those as 2 separate questions, or you can take them as one. Your choice. I
will take them as 2 separate. It's not an overreaction about those young guys based on the productivity they demonstrated. Posa got his shot or more snaps because Christian Allegro had the broken arm and couldn't go. Tackett Curtis was healthy enough to go, but when he went in there, got beat for a play that ended up as an Oregon touchdown, right?
He didn't get the guy in the backfield. He missed the tackle.
Yeah.
I also had to go looking for who the hell is 41.
Right.
Yeah. It looked like Tackett, but
that's a challenging spot because if Allegro is healthy, I mean, he's giving you everything. He's a really good player, but clearly those 2 freshmen need to play. The Atuka situation, I mean, I don't really think it's much to think about because you don't have healthy running backs in front. And I think he's done enough to continue to play. And same thing with Hilton. Just give him a shot. The Carter Smith one, I mean, we might as well get into it. I figured it was going to be the first question and probably several of them.
Do you want me to, do you want me
yeah,
to read all? Do you want me to read all of them? I can read all of them if you'd like.
Are they all like the exact same question or variations of the same question?
Yes.
Okay. The starting him against Washington, this is hard for me to answer because we have not seen practice since the second week in August. So I don't know what kind of progress he's made in 2.5 months or where they're using him, if he's just a scout team quarterback. Clearly in practice, he was below those top 3 quarterbacks. We also never saw what it would have looked like if he got an opportunity with the ones. In spring ball, he was with the 3s, and there were times where he made plays. I mean, I can remember a couple of them. Certainly having Hilton out there helped. He's got mobility, so he gives you that. He's got that playmaking ability. I don't, maybe only a handful of snaps I saw even in fall with the 2s. So I would be really interested to see what he can do with that group. Every year you get this question of, well, it can't be any worse. We heard it with Maber Matire, insert freshman quarterback. It can always be worse, and you don't want to wreck someone's confidence. On the other hand, as we've discussed, what do you have to lose right now? Your quarterback play without Billy Edwards Jr. has been atrocious. And if you have a bye week and you think it's even close, I don't know if you start him against Washington, but I'd be interested to see at least a package and see what he can do. Because I don't know how far away he is in terms of the knowledge and the ability to those other guys. But if it comes down to playmaking ability, I mean, he's every bit the playmaker, if not more than I think what they have. So I want to see him personally. Like the whole redshirt thing. Well, okay, you got 4 games left. I also think coaches, they shouldn't be worrying about redshirting guys at this point, because 3 years from now, you have no idea if you're still going to be here. I want to see what Carter can do, but they have to decide whether it's realistic or how close he is, because you don't want to throw him out there and it's somehow worse. And I want to leave that open as a possibility, but I want to see it.
There's worse than 1 for 13.
I mean, there's turnovers, there's sacks, there's injury. It can always be worse. Having said that, I'm saying I would like to see Carter play. I want to know what he can do. True freshman quarterbacks at Wisconsin generally don't get those kinds of opportunities, but this is a unique season where the quarterback play is nowhere near good enough. And maybe he can give you a spark. Maybe he can. And if he can't, well, you're in the same spot you're already in.
Yeah, you're not going to a bowl game. So like, what are you playing for? Again, the idea behind this though is the seniors, you're trying to give them the best chance to win games at this point. They don't care. I mean, I'm sure they would care, but they want to win games. They want to get who gives them the best chance, and instead of seeing what a guy can do, just who gives them the best chance. And they go against Carter Smith every day in practice, right? So they would know if he gives them would give them a better chance. If they believe that and he's not playing, you would think there'd be a little bit more of an outcry about it.
Right. I think that's the thing that's tough for us to answer, having not seen practice since, again, early in August, is we don't know where things stand, and we don't know what kind of role he's had in practice. And I'm guessing you're not seeing any reps with him when you're prepping for a game week. Like if Hunter Simmons is getting the majority, you want to give Danny O'Neal some. I don't think there's a lot of room for the 3s unless it's a young guy's practice. But the upside is there, certainly. And I think that's what people are hanging their hat on, is like, let's just see what he has. And if it's not great, at least he got the experience.
Yes. This kind of goes back to the question about some of the young guys, but overreaction or no, Ituka is Wisconsin's best running back.
It's not an overreaction to me right now. I mean, there might be, obviously the other two showed in high school the talent that they have, and Dupree, when healthy, is dynamic, and maybe it's one game, but we saw more out of that one game than what we've seen from the other two guys. So if I'm just basing it on what we've seen in games, I'm not going to say Atuka is so far off or worse than those other two, at least what he's demonstrated. Again, he's got a lot of power. He's got some good burst. You need some help from your O-line, but that was a good Oregon defense, and he ran for 80 plus yards. And how many times have we seen that?
Yeah, I thought he was going to get to. I thought he was going to get over 100. He was at
I did too.
97. I thought he was at like 96 or 97 at one point. Then lost some yards, but yeah, that's unfortunate. Overreaction or no? Rob says Fickle is not a good talent evaluator with staff or personnel and shouldn't be trusted, even if UW ups its financial commitments to the program.
I mean, I'm going to say that's an overreaction. We can take that one by one. Not a good talent evaluator of staff. I mean, I guess you can say, I don't know, you give him the benefit or say he helped with the staff at Cincinnati, because there are those people in good positions. What Wisconsin is right now, it's a failure on multiple levels. And so the staff shares the blame in that. But I think that's a tougher one to evaluate and just make a blanket statement. But when you're 2-6, everything can be called into question. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, if you have them, on this particular question. I just think that's a hard one to make a blanket statement on.
I mean, does it say something that the guys that perhaps were not playing the last couple of weeks got an opportunity to play and it looked better? Some of the young guys, some of the guys that they recruited and brought in and wanted them to play, or have touted these last two recruiting classes, and they finally get on the field. A large,
that's talent evaluation.
Why did it take this long? To get them on the field.
I think that's fair too. And again, part of that is challenging because we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Obviously, there's always been talent there, and it took some injuries. So I don't know. But at this point, now that they've shown it, can't take them off the field, even with some of these, if some of these older guys get healthy. Like they've been way more productive in their limited action. So that's a fair question. Because I've been talking about Posa since before he even got here. Like, you looked at that film and you could see the things that made you think about Herbig and Chanel, and it's evident. So you don't take it back now, but 7-8 games is a long time.
A couple QB questions here. Trap says, overreaction or no? With a quality quarterback that had a chance to, Wisconsin had a chance to win that game. And also, overreaction or no from Travis, even Deacon Hill would be an upgraded quarterback.
Shots fired. I mean, I guess what does quality quarterback mean? You know, like an average quarterback play, obviously you'd still be better if you had a Russell Wilson type. That's someone who can go out and win you a game. There's obviously different levels, but certainly, I mean, it's obvious to say if you had a better quarterback, you'd be in a better position to win. Now, I don't know how effective. I don't know, man. Yeah, they'd have a shot because the defense showed up. The Deacon Hill one, that just feels like an unnecessary shot. We saw what he did when he got to play for Iowa. It wasn't particularly good, so I'm not going to say that it would be better at Wisconsin. But I think we can all agree that the quarterback play we're seeing this season is not good and feels like setting Wisconsin's offense back decades. Like I feel like I'm watching football from a different generation right now.
Big Ten West champion Deacon Hill in 2023, his passer rating was 87.4. What do you think Hunter Simmons is right now? Is
39.
89.1. That's right. Passer rating. So
not QBR?
Not QBR, which is, yeah. So passer rating. So 89. Oh, if Deacon Hill had an 87 point something passer QBR, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He did not. That's a horrible passer rating, 87. And Hunter Simmons currently 2 points better than that. So just how bad was Deacon Hill at Iowa? And it didn't matter. They still won the Big Ten West because of their defense. Just kind of like Wisconsin had put themselves in position to win Big Ten West titles because of their defense. and a little bit of offense when Jonathan Taylor was around. Speaking of, that dude is going off right
I looked
now.
up his contract situation actually this morning. I was like, oh man, he's got another year on his deal. I know he kind of was able to negotiate a few years ago and he got 26.5 million guaranteed and is getting 14 million a year. Not enough. Pay him more. That dude is ridiculous.
Kevin says, how does this game make you feel about the team? In his opinion, it doesn't really change anything. If I'm leaning one way or the other, it's more pissed than less. A defensive effort like that makes me question everything against Iowa.
There's a lot of ways to look at that result. I said before it was best case scenario because when we had our show leading into the game and you said, what does success look like? I said, don't get blown out. Don't get embarrassed. Be competitive. That's really where the bar is right now. And I think if you can do that, then it creates some sense of optimism. Nothing is going to change how you feel about the Iowa matchup for the reasons we laid out when you spend an entire year on a matchup against a team that, at least on paper, it's not like they should be blowing you away with talent. They just out execute you. They're tougher mentally, physically, every area, obviously. So it's not going to make you feel better no matter what happens the rest of the way. But you need more of the Michigans and the Oregons performances to feel like there's reason for positivity. And that's tough because you're still losing games. You're still 2-6. You very well could end up 2-10. But they're just in such a low spot right now.
Ryan says, overreaction or no, Luke Fickell's future hinges on how they do against Illinois and Minnesota. Lose both, he'll be gone.
Overreaction. Because if he was going to, like, let's be real about this. I think if he was going to be gone, he'd be gone. Chris McIntosh has a couple of times now went out of his way to make statements about Fickell and this program. We're coming off a weekend where Brian Kelly at LSU got let go with a massive buyout. At least LSU has a winning record. I think they're 5-3. You've had 14 coaches. Is that right? Power 4 or 14 in college football who've been dismissed at this point. You do that. Oh, is it 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kelly's the 8th. There might be 14 overall, but Power 4, it's 8.
But the reason you do that is to get a head start on your future. And so at this point, as you said before, it just feels like Wisconsin's going to run it back. So hard for me. I mean, you're going to use Illinois or Minnesota, one game specifically, as an indictment on where the program is. I mean, the entire year and the entire tenure is an indictment on where the program is. Certainly you are not going to do yourself any favors if you lose 37-0 in those games, but I kind of feel like they've made their decision.
Yes. This is a funny one, actually. Overreaction or no, since the Badgers are not doing well, the officials have a somewhat built-in bias against the Badgers because they're not supposed to have success. Let me finish. He said, Brad says, I admit I have a bias for the Badgers. It seems the other teams get benefit of the doubt on calls, not Bucky. There were some very questionable calls in that game on Saturday night. Very questionable. Some of the spots. Oh, horrible. A couple other things that happened. Horrible. But just because Wisconsin's horrible, I don't think it's they're getting a call. But like even Fickell mentioned it, and you never hear him actually call out specific plays. But the first play of the second half, Oregon gets that long run. It was like 70 yards, and then they brought it back like 20 or something like that, 30 yards.
Pancake.
Like it wasn't at all. It was a hold as Mason Riger's trying to get free. And we saw this, and I know that the Alabama game, I said the same thing on the that screenplay right at the beginning of the second half, where it was a clear hold. Would it have mattered against Alabama? Absolutely not. But it's okay to point out missed calls in games. This one, would it have mattered? Does it matter or not? I mean, it's a 14-point game in the end, but they scored a touchdown on that drive, I believe, and they got down there 40 yards because the guy got held. And to not call that is BS. But is it an overreaction or no that the officials have a bias against Wisconsin because they're horrible?
I think that is an overreaction, but some of those Gideon Atuka runs, I don't know what people were looking at.
What do you mean?
The Gideon Atuka runs, where it was like they kept spotting the ball behind the line,
Oh, yeah,
behind where he
yeah,
was.
yeah.
I just, am I living in an alternate reality? Or are we looking at different things? Yeah, would the outcome have changed? Oregon's a better team, but at the time, in reference to the start of the second half, it's only 7-0. So it doesn't help. But when it rains, it pours, right?
The one that was horrible was the ball was the first down. I think was at the 43 and a half maybe, and Gideon was clearly at the 44 when he went down. They reviewed it and upheld the spot,
Right.
and Wisconsin punts instead. And that would have been that's a huge play. That's a huge play. It's ridiculous, to be honest with you. But that is what it is, and they've had there have been that at times this year, but I think it certainly can go both ways. I'm sure Wisconsin's been the benefit of some calls at certain points. I think there was one or two more that I wanted to get to. I'm sorry. I'll cut most of this out because people are like, I don't even know how you would answer this one, but overreaction or no, Hunter Simmons, the worst quarterback to start more than 3 games in a season in the last 30 years for the Badgers.
Well, statistically,
that was not the one. That was not the one I was looking for. But go ahead.
So what? 95. I don't know. You know your 90s Badgers history better than I do. Obviously, statistically, it's in the conversation. I mean, what more is there to say? You can pick the guys. Alan Everidge.
That's what I just was about to look up his stats. But I don't know if he got. Did he get 3 starts? Is the question? I think he did.
What are those numbers? Probably better.
Yeah, Scott Kavanaugh. He got 1 game. I thought maybe 2.
Oh,
he got replaced in the Michigan game. So maybe he made it all the way to that one. Alan Everidge, his first year at Wisconsin, 87.9 passer rating, but he only threw 12 passes. The next year he threw 132 passes. His rating was 119.1. I actually went back and looked up some of the passer ratings for guys last year when Braden Locke was doing his thing, and just to see where it would have fallen, and he would have been one of the worst. But even he, numbers wise, is better than what Hunter Simmons has put up, which is funny because someone asked, and I'm sure Ryan's listening, but he asked if we owed Braden Locke an apology. Why? Why would you apologize to a bad quarterback just because another guy that came in and is playing quarterback is worse? That doesn't, just because one bad quarterback plus another bad quarterback doesn't make one of them a good quarterback. They're both bad quarterbacks. They're both bad.
Braden threw 13 touchdown passes last year,
including to the other team. Does that include his throws to the other team or no?
I love the soapboxes that you stand on forever.
Oh, really?
Either way, not good.
It's not a soapbox.
I'm not saying he's good, but this is worse. But I'm not saying we owe an apology.
It's their third string quarterback, technically. But again, I was told this offense would be fine if they lost their starting quarterback. So that is what it is. It's not a soapbox. Braden Locke is not a good quarterback. I don't care what you say, his dad says, or anybody else. It doesn't matter to me.
I didn't say he was. I just said he threw 13 touchdown passes. We're not going to see 13 touchdown passes for multiple seasons, perhaps.
They're not going to throw more than 13 touchdown passes next year. You're already predicting. You don't even know who the quarterback's going to be, and you're already predicting what it's going to be. It could be Archie. It could be Arch Manning. It could be Arch Manning next year. Do you know that?
Yeah.
A joke.
Okay.
A joke.
Multiple seasons, 13. What do they have? 7 right now?
Yes. They could get to 13 this year. Ooh, funny. Last one here. Did you saw Fickle's press conference, his post-game press conference? There was a moment in there, and I don't even know that he was asked about it, but he said they're not blaming each other. They're not pointing a finger at each other. They're not arguing with each other. You might have had one, but that's none of the guys that are playing. Do you want to guess who he's talking about?
I have no idea, but I'm also like, why would you bring that up in the post-game press conference? What are you doing? Maybe you're honest to a fault. I don't know, but
that's hilarious.
It takes away from the message you're trying to relay, which is that this is a unit that's still together, because then people start wondering, what about that other thing you said?
We don't get to talk to Luke this week. And he would never tell us who it is, but that is just so unnecessary. And just, I mean, if we learn that somebody's been kicked off the team or not going to be around anymore, we'll be able to figure out who he's talking about. But I mean, I have to assume it'd be a guy that is an older guy that thinks he should be playing, and any younger guys getting an opportunity. I mean, that you would think that that's it, but because that has been, yeah, I mean, that we would think that would potentially be it, but I don't know. Perhaps we'll never know. But you did say Luke Fickell was honest to a fault, so maybe I'll just ask.
I'm saying maybe he was in that moment. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't really serve a great purpose other than acknowledging something that didn't need to be out there.
It serves zero purpose other than to get people questioning who's pissed off in that locker room and pointing fingers. Like that's the only thing it does. So either way, no game this coming week. We'll have one more show. We're gonna do a show on Wednesday, and we're also gonna have an episode of The Swing because the Badgers played Oklahoma this past Friday night. Came up a little bit short in that exhibition game. They've got an exhibition game on Wednesday. We'll have an episode Thursday as the regular season approaches. I think that's it. Jesse, thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
All right, there is Jesse Temple from Badger Connect. You've been listening to The Camp.